The iPhone 16 and 16 Pro are here, and unlike years past, the differences between the base model, the Pro, and the Pro Max are less obvious at first glance. So in this video, we're not only going to break down everything new with the iPhone 16s, but we're also going to point out some important mistakes that you need to avoid making, and also if you should even upgrade from an iPhone 15, 14, or 13. So as usual, this year, Apple dropped 4 new iPhone 16 models, the iPhone 16, 16 Plus, 16 Pro, and 16 Pro Max. But that's about all that's usual this year because we have new display sizes, hardly any differences between the Pro and Pro Max, bigger batteries, new buttons, and more unexpected changes, including some that are not so great. So let's first discuss the displays because for the first time in 4 years, these screen sizes are finally getting bigger. The iPhone 16 Pro is going from 6.1 inches to 6.3 inches, and the 16 Pro Max is going from 6.7 inches to 6.9 inches. Now the Pro models will also be slightly taller, wider, and heavier than the 15 Pro and Pro Max. Meanwhile, the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus will remain at 6.1 and 6.7 inch display sizes, and they'll also retain the same height and width, but they will be slightly lighter than last year's 15 and 15 Plus. Now all 4 models are going to have the same Super Retina XDR OLED display, along with the same 1000 nits of peak brightness, and now for the first time, a minimum brightness of just 1 nit. However, the iPhone 16 is still going to have that 60 Hz refresh rate, while the Pros are going to have the 120 Hz ProMotion display for a smoother experience and the always-on display. And then all models will once again have the dynamic island, which is big if you did not upgrade last year to the 15. So the 3 key differences between the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro in terms of the display is number 1, the bigger display sizes, the 120 Hz refresh rate with the always-on display, and thinner bezels. So the Pros are basically edge to edge at this point, whereas the iPhone 16 will have more noticeable bezels around the screen. Okay, so last year we saw that the iPhone 15 Plus was the battery champion. It beat out the iPhone 15 Pro Max with ease in most of the battery tests, but that might be changing this year. So here's another mistake you want to avoid. Do not default to buying the Plus model if you want the best battery life, because Apple not only rates the 16 Pro Max at 5 to 6 more hours of video playback, but also for the first time ever, the Pro Max has the highest rated battery life for audio playback as well at 105 hours versus 100 hours on the Plus. So a clean sweep for the iPhone 16 Pro Max across the board. But what if I told you that those numbers might be underestimated? And I say that because also for the first time, the Pro and Pro Max are built with a graphite-clad aluminum substructure that Apple says will improve thermal efficiency and performance by 20% over the 15 Pros. Now the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus did also get bigger batteries this year, and they're also rated for 2 additional hours of battery life over the 15 and 15 Plus when watching and streaming video. But the audio playback remains the same at 100 hours. So if you're planning on gaming, using Apple Intelligence every single day, or if you just use your phone like a lot throughout the day, the Pro Max might be the one to get this year when it comes to battery life specifically. And something that Apple didn't really talk about much is that all of the iPhone 16 models will support fast charging over MagSafe at 25 watts. However, you do need to buy the new puck at $40, and also you need a 30-watt USB-C power adapter if you don't already have one. Otherwise, it charges at the already fast 15 watts if you use a 20-watt power brick. However, with that MagSafe puck, you are stuck with a cord, meaning that you can't really take that on the go. But thankfully, today's video sponsor ESR has a solution for that with their new ultra slim Qi 2 MagSafe battery pack, which is perfect when on the go. It just sticks onto the back of your phone and charges at 15 watts. And if you want to set it down to watch a video while eating lunch, the kickstand makes it convenient. And just being Qi 2 makes this more efficient than your typical Qi chargers, but their Cryo Boost cooling technology also ensures the power bank doesn't overheat. And if you're at home or the office, they also offer a Qi 2 version of the popular 3-in-1 MagSafe charger. This not only gets you that 15-watt MagSafe charging for the iPhone and a charging pad for the AirPods, but it also gets you this little modular Apple Watch charger that now charges 4 times faster than the typical 2.5 watt chargers. Oh, and if you're in the car, ESR also has this slick little Qi 2 15 watt MagSafe car charger, which also has that cooling technology inside and a dual mounting mechanism for securing it to an air vent or the dashboard. So if you want to pick up any of these charging accessories for your iPhone 16, or even if you don't have an iPhone 16, if you have a MagSafe compatible iPhone, ESR makes some of the best MagSafe accessories out there. So check them out. They'll be linked down in the description below. Now here's where things get interesting and where I think that a lot of people are going to choose the base model iPhone 16 over the 16 Pros. And this has to do with the design and the build quality because first off, yes, the Pros are built with titanium, which does feel more premium in the hand compared to the aluminum on the regular 16. But aside from that, aside from the build materials and the new screen size difference, there's not really much different. And I say that because for the first time in recent memory, the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus are going to be getting the same hardware buttons as the Pros. Apple usually always puts buttons and camera lenses and things like that in the Pros first, but this year we're seeing it across the whole lineup. So not only do all iPhone 16s now get the action button, which I personally use every single day, but all models will also get the brand new camera control button on the bottom right side of the phone. So this button gives you additional functionality when capturing images and video, such as being able to quickly open the camera app and take a photo or video. And since it's also built with a force and touch sensor, you also get swiping gestures. So you can control things like the zoom, exposure, depth of field, photographic styles, and you can even switch lenses using this button. So just given the fact that the 16 gets the action button and that new camera control button, like those are both good reasons to just stick with the iPhone 16. But of course, there's a lot more to it and things start to get even more odd. And that's because the cameras on the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max are exactly the same this year. No difference. And the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus camera system is not very far behind. So the 16 Pro and Pro Max have a 48 megapixel Fusion main camera, a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera, which is an upgrade there. You get better ultra wide and macro shots now, and also a 12 megapixel 5x telephoto, which was previously a Pro Max exclusive last year. And they can also both shoot video in 4K at 100 FPS and 120 FPS. Meanwhile, the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus get a 48 megapixel Fusion camera, which gets its name from the built-in 2x telephoto functionality. So it's basically like having 2 cameras in one, which is pretty neat. But the bigger upgrade here comes in the ultra wide camera, because on the base 16s, we now have autofocus on the ultra wide lens, which means that we can take macro shots and do macro mode in video. So Apple also announced wind noise reduction as a feature that's on all models. That's kind of self-explanatory. You'll sound better when there's wind blowing around you. And then the other one that seemed really interesting is called Audio Mix. So Audio Mix gives you this really sleek, really cool UI in the camera app, and it allows you to adjust the way voices are going to sound when you record videos. So there's in-frame, studio, and cinematic modes. So I cannot wait to test this out. I will be testing this out on day 1. So make sure you are subscribed because this feature seems awesome. And it's really cool that it's on all devices as well, all 16 models. And even the most impressive feature of the entire keynote is available across all iPhone 16s, and that is visual intelligence. This is basically like Google Lens built into your phone. So once you click and hold on that camera control button, your iPhone 16 is going to use Apple Intelligence to, quote, instantly learn about everything you see. For example, you can point it at a flyer on the wall, and details like the title, date, and location will be automatically recorded and added to your calendar. It can also utilize third-party models, so you can show it a live video of a bike and it'll find that bike on Google for you without having to type anything. And this was honestly the only feature during the Apple event where I was like, wow, that's amazing. I did not expect that. I did not think that was coming. This was an amazing feature to see, and I thought for sure that this would be on the Pros first, but it's not. Now the Pros do get some exclusive features here, like they do have the new studio studio quality 4-mic array, which lowers the noise floor and improves vocal and acoustic sounds while recording. But aside from better audio when you're recording video, really the only advantages that the Pro has over the regular 16 and 16 Plus are, number one, the 5x telephoto lens, and of course that upgraded 48 megapixel ultra wide lens versus the 12 megapixel on the regular 16. Another advantage is being able to shoot video up to 4K at 120 FPS, and then of course the typical ProRAW and ProRes formats. And we did also get the JPEG XL format as well for the Pro models only, which is kind of just an alternative, a better alternative to HEIF. So really only important features for Pros. Go figure. Now, another area that you're going to want to understand before buying the iPhone 16 or 16 Pro is the performance. And this is another area where the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus shine given the price difference between them and the Pros. Because the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus have the A18 chip with 8 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the 16 Pros have the A18 Pro chip also with 8 gigabytes of RAM and a little bit more cache. And the A18 and the A18 Pro chips have the same amount of CPU and neural engine cores, but the Pro has one additional GPU core. The Pros are said to be 15 to 20% faster than last year's models, whereas the base 16 is said to be 30% faster in CPU and 40% faster in GPU performance versus the iPhone 15. And unlike last year, where hardware accelerated ray tracing was an exclusive to the Pros, that's now also available on all 4 models, which is great for those who game. And the same goes with Wi-Fi 7 and Thread support. That is not an exclusive to just the Pros like it was last year with Wi-Fi 6E. So unless you're a heavy gamer or you plan on really using Genmoji and these crazy AI features like every single day, again, it seems like a great year to get the base 16 or 16 Plus over something like the Pros, because it's going to be hardly any difference in day-to-day usage, especially given the price difference. Although one thing I do want to mention that's great that is still a Pro exclusive is going to be precision dual frequency GPS. So that's been a Pro exclusive feature for a while, and that continues this year, unfortunately. Now, I think that this year the color is going to play a bigger factor than years past, because not only of how close everything is in terms of pretty much every feature, the base model and the Pros are, pretty similar across the board, but also this year, the 16 Pros have pretty much the same colors aside from the new Desert Titanium color, which is kind of like a gold. So they do also come in the same black, white, and natural colors as well. But again, pretty much looks the same as last year's iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, aside from that gold color. Meanwhile, the 16s get a vibrant makeover and shy away from the pastel look with 3 new punchy colors: ultramarine, teal, and pink, to go along with the classic black and white colors. So call me crazy, but I think there's going to be a lot of people out there where the color is going to be their biggest deciding factor between the 16 and the 16 Pro, and I can't say that I blame them. And as far as the pricing goes, despite inflation going crazy, they are the same price as last year across the board. So the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus start at $799 and $899 respectively, and they start at 128 gigs of storage. Meanwhile, the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max start at $999 and $1199 respectively, and the Pro starts at 128, while the Pro Max starts at 256 in terms of storage. So now I want to answer the question of, should you upgrade to an iPhone 16 or 16 Pro if you have an iPhone 15 or 15 Pro? Well, if you have the iPhone 15, and this might be controversial, but I say yes, you probably should upgrade to the iPhone 16. And the reason being is because you get improvements in performance, you get improvements in battery life, cameras, you get that 1 nit minimum brightness, you get the action button, you get the camera control button, and of course you get Apple Intelligence support. And if you trade in the iPhone 15, you get about $410. So for $400, you get improvements across the board that the next few iPhones are unlikely to greatly improve upon. Like we heard rumors about the 17 Ultra or whatever, but the base model 17 is not going to be, as radically different like this Ultra model upcoming can be. And again, like I always say, do not hold off on buying something if you're thinking about it just because of what could come next year. Like next year is always going to be better. That's just how tech works. So I would say if you have an iPhone 15, I don't think it's crazy to upgrade to the iPhone 16. I actually think it makes sense for a lot of people. Now, inversely, if you have an iPhone 15 Pro, I would say that you probably should not upgrade this year for multiple reasons. So number one, you already have Apple Intelligence support if you have an iPhone 15 Pro. Number two, your camera is probably already amazing and you probably aren't going to see many improvements with this new camera unless you shoot a lot of ultra wide shots and a lot of macro shots. Number three, the battery life is going to be better and it is going to stay cooler this year. But to me, that's not like a reason to upgrade for that alone. So I don't really think it makes a lot of sense unless you just have to have the new capture button. If you need to have the new camera control button, then maybe you think about upgrading. Or if you need a bigger phone, like if you have 6.7 inches is still too small for you and you want a 6.9 inch phone, then obviously you should upgrade because you can get the new 6.9 inch 16 Pro Max. However, I still think that the 16 Pro this year is just more compelling across the board than the 16 Pro Max. There's really no reason to get the 16 Pro Max over the 16 Pro unless you just have huge hands and you absolutely have to have the biggest phone and the best battery life out there. Like, yes, the battery life will be amazing. Do not get me wrong. I think the 16 Pro Max is also worth getting, if you're deciding between the two for the battery life. But, I think that if you have a 15 Pro or Pro Max, I don't think that you necessarily need to go ahead and upgrade this year. If I was in that position, I would hold off at least for another year. Now, if you have an iPhone 14, 13, 12, or anything older, then I think upgrading to the iPhone 16, any iPhone 16 will be an amazing upgrade. I mean, you get Apple Intelligence and you get significant improvements across the board. I mean, significant improvements in performance and battery life and camera quality. You get the dynamic island, you get the action button. You just get so much that I think it is worth updating and upgrading if you have anything older than an iPhone 15. And I have also seen some people talk about Apple Intelligence and how it's not there yet. So why would I buy the iPhone 16 if Apple Intelligence isn't even on the iPhone 16 yet? And the thing is, do you buy an iPhone and then just buy another one 3 months later? I mean, probably not. So, why would you not buy the iPhone 16 just because it doesn't have the features now? It's not like you were gonna get a new phone in 3 months anyways. So, I mean, if you have to wait for Apple Intelligence features, I don't think that should be a big issue, especially if you're planning on keeping your phone for multiple years. Apple Intelligence is very compelling because we're only in the very early stages. And that, of course, is going to be a big deal for a lot of future features. So that to me is worth a lot in terms of what I'm willing to spend on a phone to ensure that I have really amazing features coming to my phone for the next few years. So those are the key differences between the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro and an overall buyer's guide on whether or not you should upgrade to the iPhone 16 or 16 Pro. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Also, leave a comment down below with which iPhone you are planning to buy. Again, pre-order starts this Friday, and then we will see the official release on September 20th. And as always, I will be getting every single iPhone here in the studio, and I will be doing extensive testing on all of the iPhones along with the Apple Watch and AirPods. So if you want to see those videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.